Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Copilot Compass, where each week we take a deep dive into Microsoft 365 Copilot. As always, I have the pleasure of being joined by my esteemed colleague, fellow Copilot enthusiast, and our resident smart guy, Logan.
Thanks, Grant. Happy to be here.
And Logan, why don't you tell the folks at home a little bit more about what they can expect from this week's episode?
Yeah, so as always, we're going to get started with our question of the week, and then we'll get into our topic, which is Copilot for finance. So we'll be going through three different Copilot for finance use cases. Yeah, it should be interesting. I'm excited to get into it. And yeah, make sure you stay tuned to the end to get a sneak preview of what we have coming up. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.
Awesome. Let's dive right in.
Let's do it. Okay, so let's get into our question of the week. And remember, you can leave your own question as a comment on this video or by emailing the email address in the video description. So this week, our question is Copilot helping users think more critically, or does it risk making us too reliant on AI?
Ooh, that's a second week in a row of deep questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can only really speak to my own personal experiences here, but for me, I would say I certainly haven't become, I think you said making us reliant on AI. I wouldn't say that that's the case. I mean, I'd say it's made me more effective. And I think, what I'm in particular thinking of is if there was something that I need to do a little bit more research on, like my old use case was going to be, I'm going to have, I got a topic that maybe I learned about some time ago. It's been a while, or I want to make sure I'm caught up on the latest and greatest. Let's say, for example, the change management research. I want to, try to get some stats or some metrics on a particular aspect of change management. And, before Copilot, what I'm having to do is, go look on ProC's website and see if there's any blogs that are on there, or see if I can get into the benchmarking report, the annual benchmarking report that they do. Or, maybe I'm just doing a Bing search or Google search of just, hey, change management stats and scrolling through sites and trying to find it. It's a very ineffective method. I think, you're 80% of that time you're looking at stuff, either trying to find something or you're looking at something that you end up determining is not relevant. Whereas, with Copilot, with a good prompt, and I use Copilot for the web, I can quickly find out some information there. I can ask some follow-up questions. And then, when I'm ready to validate the information it's giving me, it gives me the link right there so I can, I can go look at it. So I think for me, it's allowed, to make some of that research time more efficient. But I definitely, wouldn't say I've necessarily become reliant on it, whereas if it's not like I can't get this information without it, it's just made it a little bit easier. But yeah, I don't know, good deep question. What do you think, Logan? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with a lot with what you just said. I think this could be, like a valid concern in, I don't know, 10, 20 years, like when AI gets to the point where it really just does everything better than, maybe we could, well, who knows if we're going to ever get to that point or how long it's going to take. But I think at the time being, Copilot's really just a tool that can help you, assist you in all these tasks, but it's not doing the work for you. It's just kind of helping you out in certain circumstances. So yeah, I definitely don't think full reliancy is an issue quite yet. But we'll see it. We'll see how AI progresses in the future. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, and right now you're not seeing companies that are bringing in tools like Copilot and then saying, okay, great, this now I can trim down my staff or get rid of some operational staff. I think if companies did go that route, they said, hey, Copilot's making you more efficient and more effective, so now we can trim some staff, then you are becoming reliant on it. I mean, without those tools, you're not gonna be able to do the same things with the same amount of folks. And as you start to get more, autonomous agents in the organization, then you do have a certain amount of that. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good deep question. I don't think either you or I are philosophical enough to be well positioned to answer, but that's the best of our abilities, I guess. So, all right. Well, unless you want to go deeper down that rabbit hole, I vote we go ahead and start talking about some finance use cases.
I think that's the right call. Let's do it.
All right. Sounds good. Let's do it.
So.
All right, so now we're going to talk about some Copilot use cases in finance. Now, this is certainly not an all-encompassing list of the capabilities with finance, and I think a lot of the Microsoft 365 Copilot features that we've covered in, the previous episodes here are still going to be applicable. I mean, summarizing Teams meetings, using it in Outlook, uh, all of those use cases are going to apply, but we wanted to highlight a few use cases here, three specifically, that are very specific to those of you that are in finance type of roles. So our first demo is going to be using the Copilot chat to get an understanding of the latest and greatest when it comes to industry regulations and standards. Then we're going to take a look at using Copilot to help you analyze and interpret risk when it comes to, things like invoices, SOWs, those types of formal documentation. And then the last one's not so much a demo, but we are going to more walk you through how Copilot for finance can help you with reconciliation for period close. So, Copilot in finance, as we're recording this episode here in the first week of May, is still in public preview. So it's not yet publicly available. And so that's one of the reasons we're going to kind of talk it through with you rather than, show the normal kind of hands-on demo per se. And then the other reason too is that, you know, it's taking a very long process and making it shorter for sure, but it's not going to make it short enough that it's digestible here for, this format. So that one will kind of more talk you through. But we'll go through those three demos. We've got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and dive right in.
Well, let's do it.
All right, so our first use case here is going to be using Copilot to get insights on industry regulations. Now, most of this you can do with just that web-based Copilot chat. So this doesn't even necessarily require a Microsoft 365 Copilot license. We'll talk before we close up this particular crow's nest about where that might be helpful, but for the most part, this is going to be available for you with even if you're just licensed with the normal free Copilot chat. So um, to set the stage here, let's say that we are in the oil and gas industry. There's obviously been, as we sit here in early May, there's been some changes in, tariffs and regulations that have come about in the last several months. So let's say I'm trying to keep up with the latest and greatest. I don't have the time to go read through longer articles and make sure that I have the most recent news. So I'm going to use Copilot to help me out here. So maybe I want to say, um, tell me the latest on tariffs and regulations for the oil and gas industry for US based companies. And then let's say I want to make sure it's recent. So I'm going to say only use information published in the last 30 days. And as Copilot works here, so now what I can see here is giving me a nice summary here. I can see it's got some new tariff structures. So this universal 10% IEEPA tariff. We've got a reciprocal tariff that's in place. So anyway, we won't go through each one of these, but now let's say that, okay, this information looks good for me. Maybe just because of my role, only Section 232 tariffs are important for me. So because we're in the energy sector. So let me say, I've got this high level overview here. Now I want to say, tell me more about news regarding Section 232 tariffs. And it's got the context of the first question I asked. So it's already kind of, I'm now using, that prompting methodology of starting big and now getting a little bit more small, trying to aim for that bullseye here. So now I can see, so it's giving me more information here, effective April and May 2025, the automobile and auto parts tariffs, steel and aluminum tariff expansion. Now maybe I want to say, give me information on how this applies to oil and gas companies. Let's see what it comes back with here. All right, so now it's giving me some breakdown on how this Section 232 tariffs might apply for me in the oil and gas. So it's got some information here about exemptions for energy products, some global supply chain strategy suggestions, auto parts tariffs, how that's going to impact me with our fleets, and then equipment and infrastructure costs. So, pipelines and stuff that might rely heavily on steel and aluminum. So, now this did not, replace the need for me to make informed decisions based on this information. So obviously, I am, let's say, an analyst. I need, this is going to help me with that foundational research. It can give me some ideas with some of the recommendations that I might bring forward. But, this is where, AI transitions over into the human here. We have to be able to say, okay, I know my company. I have the experiences that I have. How can I use this and apply this for whatever the work stream might be, whether I'm trying to summarize this for some leadership folks, or I'm trying to use this background information to make some, predictive analysis. So, you can certainly go deeper here. You can ask it to get more specific if that's needed. We just, for the sake of this demo, we kind of kept it a little bit, at more of that 10,000 foot level, but you can kind of start to see here how this can be helpful with you understanding the latest when it comes to these types of regulations. All right, so now we're going to talk about how Copilot can help you with um, mitigating risks and helping you break down important points in documents. So you might have like an SOW, could be very lengthy, an MSA. In this case, we've got a simple invoice, and we might want to, have it understand, like, have Copilot help us identify if there's any risks in the language that are here. Now, you can ground this in your work data by having it understand, like, if you have some documentation or some guidelines are in place that say, hey, when we're looking at an SOW, we want to make sure that it has this language in there, that it doesn't have this type of language in there. And so if you want it to understand like your own internal, processes around that, you can do that by grounding it in that data in graph, and particularly telling it, hey, you make sure it does it comply to these standards from this file. In the case of this demo, we're not going to do that today, but we're just going to say that we have this invoice here. We've used this in a few other episodes of the Copilot Compass, where we've had a need for building of replica pirate ships, where Logan and I have actually played both sides of this. So we've played the company that's bidding for the work and submitting an RFP. We're now playing the side of company that, for whatever reason, needs replica pirate ships, and here's the invoice that we have. So now it sets some additional context here. Our company, maybe we buy replica pirate ships, and I have no idea what our business model is here, but we buy replica pirate ships all the time, and we've had some issues where everything was delivered, but then 6 months down the road something breaks. So we want to make sure that there's some language written into the invoice itself about quality assurance. So now, again, in a more realistic scenario for those of you at home that are in finance, you're probably going to have Copilot basically understand the guidelines, the documentation you already have around these types of requirements, and just tell it, does this comply with those requirements? And it will know amongst those things is to check for things like, is there quality assurance written in the invoice? So, but again, since we're not doing that here, we're going to coach Copilot that we wanted to check for that specifically. So, I don't have the time. I'm just trying to run through this quickly. So I'm just going to see, does it cover it? So maybe I just want to ask Copilot, does this invoice include any language about quality assurance or doing quality checks before delivery? So again, a little bit longer of a prompt here, just because I'm not grounding it in my own company's, requirements here. So it says it does not include any specific language about quality assurance or performing any quality checks. It primarily covers, and then it kind of tells me what the main stuff is here. Um, let's maybe we want to just ask Copilot. So let's say we're trying to put this into, like, our own systems, like a CRM, maybe. We can do Copilot for sales here and have it import in key information here, but maybe I wanted to say, who is the primary contact and it can, obviously in this case, I can see it right here in front of me. It's a longer document. Maybe that information might be buried at the bottom, like in the case of an SOW or an MSA. Now I've got it quickly here, and I can quickly import that into my system. Maybe I just want to ask it a simple question of um, what other information should be included in this invoice. So I've got this in place. I'm ready to execute it. Maybe I want to just quick check. I've got everything that I think I need, but maybe I want Copilot I'm just going to ask it, hey, consult me on this. What is the information I'm missing? So it might tell me from the documents that's saying that the company details, there we go. Go back to here. Company details. So ensure everything is correct, is clearly mentioned. I'm looking through it. Okay, great. I looked at like that is. Oh, this is sorry from the document from the web. So maybe I want a unique invoice number. It's suggesting for me a supply date. So I've got the invoice number. I know that that's in here. I saw that earlier. It's right here, invoice number. So I've got that one covered. The supply date. So this only has the date of the invoice is what it's saying. It doesn't necessarily say when it's going to be delivered. Yep. So I can see that here. So this might be one of those things where like I skimmed through it. I thought everything looked good, sent it off to our, CFO for signing or whoever's going to sign this. But, since I used Copilot, hey, give me a 1 quick second opinion. I identified that the supply delivery date here is not specifically mentioned. I missed it when I skimmed it. So now I've got something that's a little bit more concrete before I go back to whoever my signer is. So again, a unique demo here because we're not tying this into our actual, our own company's financial regulations when it comes to this type of document, but this can kind of get you, thinking through how this might be able to help you when you're reviewing, contracts and invoices and things of that nature. All right. So as we mentioned, in the intro here, this one we're not going to go through like a hands-on demo like we typically would. We're going to talk this through with you for two reasons. One is this is a longer demo. It's a lot more hands-on, so this would kind of have to be its own, even a longer episode for us. So, just keeping with the format, we wanted to, keep it more concise, give you some ideas here. So we'll talk it through. The other reason is that Copilot for Finance is not yet available publicly. It's not yet GA, but it is in preview. So we'll talk you through this and kind of give you some thoughts on where this will be helpful. So the scenario here is you're doing some reconciling some financial data for some kind of a period close. Maybe it's month close, quarter close, whatever the case could be. So if you're not familiar too with this scenario library, the Microsoft Copilot scenario library, do familiarize yourself with it. It can be really helpful for you in understanding and identifying, business use cases. So this one is specifically the finance section. And the way that these work is it kind of walks you through step by step some applications for Copilot, and it does break it down into like what type of Copilot you might need. Some of them are just Copilot chat free version that anybody can use. Some of them are the M365 Copilot. Some of them, like in this particular case, it's got Copilot for finance scenarios in here, as well as a Copilot Studio scenario. So work our way through this. So we've got raw data reconciliation that we need to do on a whole bunch of different data sets. And so we are going to use Copilot and Excel here. So this is your Microsoft 365 Copilot license. And we're going to ask it to aggregate this sales invoice and payment data into, basically a clean spreadsheet. So Logan's demoed this type of thing before, using Copilot to help clean up data, suggesting formulas and standardizing some formatting. Our Copilot in Excel episode's a great one if you do want to see this done. So now, once we've got that clean data, we might want to reconcile accounts here. So we might use the Copilot for Finance. And again, in preview as we sit here today, should be coming out this month is my understanding. But we want to use it to streamline the reconciliation of accounts across customers and suppliers. So we can use the Copilot for Finance available for that, just opening up the Copilot for Finance agent in Excel, and then, using that reconcile data tab and defining the vectors we want to use for it. All right, so now that we're done there, we're going to move on and do our review of discrepancies. So we might ask Copilot to review this report that we've built out and any transactions that there might be some discrepancies in there. And we might ask a simple prompt here might be, what are my top 3 categories by revenue over the last 3 years? So just you know taking a look at some of that information that we can get with Copilot in Excel for the Copilot for Finance. Now we want to generate the report here. So maybe we want to have not just a raw Excel report. We want to get something in, PDF format, um, something maybe a bit more visual, a bit more something somebody can just kind of, a handout they can take. But we want to analyze that reconciliation of results and provide insights and suggestions to address any discrepancies that we might find. And that's where, a good action here might be just selecting the summary in the report and saving it as a PDF, and a downloadable report of your summary is now available for you. All right, now why do we need that report? Well, we're going to use that report to create a custom agent, and this is where the Copilot Studio scenario comes in. So we can use Copilot Studio to build, a custom agent around this data. And then we can, going on to step 6, skipping ahead a little bit here, deploy this in Teams so that, people that do need maybe certain insights from this period closing report, we want to give them, rather than having them come back to a financial analyst or somebody on the team that helped build the report and having to ask those questions there. Now we can have this agent stood up so that somebody can ask, simple Q&A type of stuff about the data that's being presented. So you're getting a little bit of everything here. You're getting some M365 Copilot scenarios. You're getting some Copilot agents in here. And then, of course, we're getting a little sneak preview on what's coming soon here with Copilot for Finance. But, a complicated and long, oftentimes time-consuming financial process that can be made both easier and faster with Copilot, but also can give you more value in that report by, kind of steps 5 and 6 here about building those agents where people can get answers quickly on the fly. They're not waiting, overnight if the team member is offshore or, if somebody maybe is out on vacation. Now we're stuck without we're not sure where to go for the questions that we used to ask. Have no fear. Agent is here to help you with those, quick responses. So hopefully you can kind of see the art of the possible here and what's coming out soon with Copilot for Finance. In today's journey of the Copilot Compass, we took a look at how Copilot can be used for those of us in financial roles, supporting the kind of those financial functions in the business. So we looked at 3 use cases. The first one was using Copilot Chat to understand the latest and greatest regulations, policy changes, things like that, doing some of the research assistance with the, unfortunately, things are changing constantly right now. So just getting, making sure you have the latest when it comes to like things like tariffs and standards. So the second demo that we did was we talked about how you can use Copilot to identify risk when it comes to invoices, SOWs, some of those financial documentation, helping, you break down the information that's there and making sure it's in alignment with your own company policy. And then the last one wasn't, our traditional demo, but we did talk you through what's coming out with Copilot for Finance as that comes out. We're anticipating that this month here in May. But we talked specifically about how that's going to be helpful for you with reconciliation data for period closing.
Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed these demos. And yeah, I'm excited to see Copilot for Finance come out. Yeah, definitely going to try to keep a close eye on that. So if you did enjoy this episode, feel free to leave us a like, subscribe, and comment. And remember, we have our Q&A sessions. So leave a comment on this video or email the email address in the description. And remember, new episodes are released weekly on Tuesday. And stay tuned to get a sneak preview of what we have out next.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.
See you next week.